This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Nermeen Sheikh.
We turn now to Palestine. The UN Security Council is due to meet later today to formally consider the Palestinian bid for statehood and full UN membership. The move is widely expected to fail. Council President Nawaf Salam of Lebanon briefed reporters about the decision Monday after the group held preliminary talks in New York and said the council decided to meet again Wednesday morning when they will send the matter to the Admissions Committee.
Only 6 countries on the UN Security Council appear certain to vote for Palestinian membership. The 4 European Union countries are expected to either abstain or vote against. Meanwhile, Bosnia, Colombia, Gabon, and Nigeria, 4 non-permanent members, have not made statements yet about how they'll vote. Well, for more, we're joined by the renowned human rights lawyer Raji Sourani. He's the 1991 recipient of the Robert F. Kennedy Human Rights Award, an Amnesty International Prisoner of Conscience in 1985 and 1988, director of the Palestinian Center for Human Rights in Gaza, and vice president of the International Federation for Human Rights. We welcome you to Democracy Now!
Thank you.
You've just come from Gaza. Explain the reaction to Mahmoud Abbas presenting the bid for Palestinian statehood at the United Nations.
I think every Palestinian was positively shocked with the statement of President Abbas. It's unprecedented for him, and he was very clear, very realistic, and concluded very, very hard conclusion in simple words. No Palestinian would accept, after 20 years of negotiations with Israel, that Palestinians do enjoy de facto apartheid system in the West Bank and state of social economical suffocation in the Gaza Strip. And nobody would accept anymore that, Palestinian state is the first thing from Palestinian ever. The situation in Gaza and the occupied territories are so daring, and we have the unprecedented situation since the Nakba till today. In 63 years, never ever the situation was so bad, so ugly, so dramatic, and so bloody as nowadays. That was the concept and the form of what Mr. Abbas said to the whole world, that they have to move to do something vis-a-vis situation there.
Last week, we hosted a discussion on the Palestinian bid for statehood. Co-founder of news and analysis website The Electronic Intifada and author of One Country, A Bold Proposal to End the Israeli-Palestinian Impasse, Ali Abu Nima was critical of the initiative.
The source of the opposition really came from a lot of Palestinians across the political spectrum who expressed fears that going to the United Nations to call for a state on a fraction of historic Palestine without recognition of any other Palestinian rights, such as the rights of Palestinian refugees or the rights of Palestinian citizens in Israel, rather than advancing the cause of Palestine, could actually limit it and circumscribe it in the future because of unintended consequences. But it doesn't look like that's going to be a factor after all.
That was Ali Abu Nima of the Electronic Intifada. Mr. Sourani, your response?
I have to say that due to the practices of the Israeli belligerent occupation in the occupied territories, really what we are having a state of social economical suffocation in the Gaza Strip due to the siege and closure. And in the West Bank, we have in Jerusalem policy of ethnic cleansing, Judaization of Jerusalem. And due to the policies, there by Israel, settlements, activities, and its expansion vertically, horizontally, the new settlements are built on the wall. What we are having, de facto apartheid system, no Israeli talking anymore about Palestinian state, and on the ground, through the fait accompli policy, this matter is ruled out. That's what Israel are doing through settlements, extensive policy they are doing in the last few years. So accordingly, it's not a Palestinian choice. The Palestinian choice simply clear. We want two-state solution. That's what's PLO Charter about, and that's what Oslo Accords about, and that's what the international community wants in a clear, simple way. But practically speaking, Israel, with the settlements activities, with the fait accompli policies, they are ruling this option to one-state solution.
But if the bid for statehood is denied, which people expect it will be, what will Palestinians gain from this move?
Well, I think it was important, vital to convey simple message to the outside world. Abu Mazen is a very committed person to peace, to two-state solution. He's a credible partner, at least that's what the U.S. was saying, that's what Europe were saying, and that's what Israel is saying. If he conclude, enough is enough, and he, as somebody who's committed genuinely for peace, cannot continue with this path, who devoted all his entire life to, I think this is lying a real responsibility, especially on the U.S. and Europe. Of course, this is very important message also to the Palestinian people to realize that their leadership clear-cut with them. They are not playing any more games, and they are addressing them in a respected way from the most important theater on the earth, the UN General Assembly. So it's very important to convey the message to the Americans, to the Europeans, to the world community, as well to the Palestinian people. I think that from the wall to wall, President Abbas got full support from the Palestinian people in the occupied territories, outside the occupied territories. He figured out the situation, realities on the ground, and where things reached.
Talk about, Raji Sourani, the reality on the ground in Gaza in particular, and how that differs from the West Bank right now, what you feel needs to be done.
Well, Gaza, in simple words, due to siege and social economical suffocation by Israel, it's sort of animal farm. 1.8 million people sieged, suffocated, and they cannot move in or out. The same thing applies for goods, and there is 62% unpaid, unemployed, and almost 90% under poverty line. This makes us, as the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, nation of beggars. That's not us. That's not our bride. International community dumped to this animal farm some food and medicine, and that's how we are doing. This is a shame. You are talking about civilians who should be, according to international law, according to the 4th Geneva Convention, being protected. And they are in the eye of the storm in 2 occasions. One by the siege, which is not affecting Hamas at all, as intended to be. 2, in the war launched 2 years and 8 months ago, the civilian targets were as well in the eye of the storm. So the situation in Gaza really unprecedented, and it's unbelievable. Such thing happening in the 21st century. This is unprecedented situation, and Israel not satisfying with that on very day-to-day basis. They are killing, destroying, encouraging, bombing with the aeroplane, with the Apaches, with the F-16s, different places and targets in Gaza. It's like elephant in the garden, and the real ones who are suffering, the Palestinian civilians. And they are the ones in the eye of the storm. Now, in the West Bank, I have to say, the situation is not better at all than Gaza. Maybe in the level of killings and injuries, it's not like Gaza. Maybe on the level of destruction, it's not like Gaza. But in Jerusalem, once and again, Jerusalem situation ruled out ethnic cleansing for Palestinians, as well. We are talking about Judaization on day-to-day basis. The apartheid annexation wall, it's going to finish in a few months, though we have this advisory opinion by the most important court on earth. You're still having 9,000 Palestinians inside the Israeli prisons, among them almost 47 elected legislative council members. There is other 7 who will be deported from Jerusalem to the West Bank. You have on every day-to-day basis attacks by settlers on civilian individuals, villages, camps, and other places. the house demolition policy as well going on. So, in fact, I mean, there is no conceptual difference between Gaza and the West Bank, except on the state of the siege imposed on Gaza.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu gave no ground to Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas's demands for a cessation of Israeli settlement expansion in the occupied West Bank. Speaking to Charlie Rose, Netanyahu insisted that Palestine must recognize Israel as a Jewish state.
We'll have the Palestinian state in Palestine, which is Jew-free, ethnically cleansed from Jews. That's what they said outrageously the other day. And we'll have Israel, which has a Jewish majority and a Palestinian minority. But since we demand the right to flood Israel with millions of Palestinians, we'll have two Palestinian states ultimately. Palestine and this Palestinized Israel. That's the code word underneath. So that you have to ask him a simple question. Why didn't you recognize the Jewish state? That's what the UN did in the partition resolution. That's what Harry Truman did when he recognized the Jewish state. That's what President Obama did very movingly the other day in the UN. So why not do it? You know, stop watching.